What's going on today?
Man, it has been call after call after call. There's this thing happening called AI. I'm not sure if you're aware. I don't know if you've
Haven't heard
heard.
of
I
it.
don't know
Tell
if
me
you're
more.
are you in the zeitgeist? It's
I would
like big
consider
in the
myself in the zeitgeist.
Are you? Okay. Yeah. So this AI thing, man, it's pretty interesting. And everyone wants to bring up the MIT report.
Yeah, let's start there.
And guess what? Nobody's actually read it.
Yeah.
They just read that. Everybody's read the headlines.
Yeah. I actually had the chance to read it. Not every single
Awesome.
sentence, but I read it. The report that you're referring to, just for everyone's awareness, it's called the Gen AI Divide: State of AI in Business 2025. Let's get into your post in a second, but do you just want to give a high level overview of what the report talks about? What captured your attention when you first glanced through it? Why is everyone talking about this report?
I think everybody's talking about that there's been no benefit to deploying AI. Companies are not seeing the benefit. It was something like what 90 was a stat like 95% of companies have seen no benefit from deploying AI in their organizations. Is that the hot take?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the hot takes. Yep.
So tell me this, and this is like I haven't read it, right? But my first reaction was, in the world of incentive alignment, this is all surveys, right? This is all surveys. This is all like, oh, we're going to go talk to a bunch of enterprises. If you work in an enterprise, whose incentive is there to say that AI is being very effective? I'm not saying that they're not wrong. I'm just saying, in the world of we are humans and there's incentive drivers, either notionally or otherwise, we have incentive drivers. Who's going to stand up and say, man, AI is letting me do all my work in a tenth of the time?
Yeah, like the incentive is to sandbag.
Right.
Have you seen some of the timeline sentiment right now where people are suggesting Sam Altman, some of the other foundation model CEOs, they're actively underselling where they are? And I even saw a conspiracy theory show up on the timeline today that GPT-5 was a model release that was a misdirection. Like it was released intended to be a poor improvement on previous models so that the world would be, basically the AI bubble would pop and, essentially be less enthusiastic about AI, less concerned about, alignment, safety, et cetera. Have you seen that conspiracy theory floating around? I think it's related to what you're saying in that who is actually incentivized to talk about the superpowers that they've experienced by using AI.
Yeah. Right. Like, I'm getting all my work done in 30 minutes. You're paying me the same. Why am I going to say otherwise?
They actually capture that in the report.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. There's a section, and coincidentally, it's called the shadow AI economy. Quick reference to Shadow Ventures, but the stat that they show in that section, they have a stat that shows the companies who have purchased LLM subscriptions. In the survey, 40% of companies said they've purchased LLM subscriptions for their employees, and there's some sort of enterprise adoption happening. However, 90% of employees said they use LLMs regularly. So what's the disconnect between the number of companies who are reporting enterprise-wide usage and individuals that are reporting that they're using it basically every single day for multiple tasks, throughout the day? That, to me tells me, it's what you're referring to. Everyone's using the tools. However, right now, do you actually want to admit to your employer? Do you actually want to admit to your customers that you're using better tools to do work in less time? Like that's not the incentive structure at hand, right?
No, not it's the opposite, right? And so I think it's interesting that they even mentioned in the report because the headlines seem differently. But there's also like so let's take away like this nefarious shadow thing that's going on. If you asked me how often I use the internet, I don't know that I can actually tell you. So there is a possibility in the world of maybe people are better people than what we think. Maybe people are using it and they're using it so much now, they can't actually delineate when they're using it and when they're not using it.
Like across their whole
Just
across internet usage or intentional usage on
just
like opening
maybe
up
they don't know.
ChatGPT and typing in a query.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they don't remember. I mean, how often do you use the internet, Nick?
I mean, it's
Like,
like how often? Yeah,
it's
how
just
often
you
do I eat?
it's
How
just
often
you.
do I drink water? Yeah, yeah. Like just
Yeah.
yeah, it's abundant. Like yeah,
Stop bragging about your hydration game.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the that for what it's worth, I found that to be the most interesting stat because I think that tells you all you need to know. Like the report is about the state of enterprise business adoption.
Mhm.
Individual adoption is
Right.
uniformly like in the report. It's very obvious that individual adoption is completely through the roof. Like if you did the same survey of early internet usage, and
Mhm.
95% of individuals were using the internet in the early days,
Mhm.
everyone would be losing their minds. That I mean, and that
Right.
wasn't true. Like no, not everyone was using the internet. There were bottlenecks to using the internet. You actually, you had to you had to have a connection. You didn't have a smartphone. You had to be in front of a
Mhm.
computer.
Mhm.
This is not true today. Like we all have the ability to query an AI tool at any point in time with a smartphone in front of a computer via
Yep.
voice mode, via via the intelligence on our phone
Mhm.
applications, right? And so I've to me, it almost renders the report somewhat useless. Like, what are we talking about here? If
Yeah.
95% of individuals are actually using it,
Right. Shame on you, MIT. Um, or we're just that much closer to singularity. Like we don't actually know we're using it.
could be true. Could be true.
Maybe that like chat 6 is actually singularity and they're just we're not gonna see it coming.
Yeah. A couple other things I found interesting about the report. So they highlight 5 myths about Gen AI in the enterprise. Myth number 1: AI will replace most jobs in the next few years. Research found limited layoffs currently from Gen AI, and only in industries that are already affected significantly by AI. There is no consensus among executives as to hiring levels over the next 3 to 5 years. What do you think about that?
I think it's once again like it's not popular to say. I mean, I think if you're a public company CEO, there does seem to be something happening right now where there is it's popular to say you're laying people off in terms of as it affects the story of your stock. Oh, we're seeing such improvements with AI. We've let go of all these people and buy our stock, right? That seems like an easy story to sell to Wall Street, so to speak. Um, we deal with a lot of private companies. I don't know that they're the private companies we talk to that we work with. I don't think any of those CEOs would ever say that publicly, even if it was happening. They want
Yeah.
to talk about no, it's your co-pilot, it's your friend, it's going to give you superpowers. Um, Not oh, it's coming for your job.
I think that's very true. I do think there is. So the last sentence is there is no consensus among executives as to hiring levels over the next 3 to 5 years. I think that's probably true, right? Like I don't
Mhm.
the CEOs we talk to privately in the built environment, I don't think they have a grasp on exactly what hiring looks like. That's my take.
Yeah.
I don't think I think they know change is coming. They can't really predict it.
Hmm.
But if I don't think they're anticipating laying I mean, yeah. I don't think they're anticipating laying off 30 to 50% of their staff.
Yeah. Actually, that's also a little bit of a contradictory. On one statement, they're saying, "Oh, we haven't been affected," and then we're also saying, like, "But we can't predict." In other words, nobody's dug their heels in on the idea of, "Oh, AI has not affected my current teams and staffing levels, and it never will." Right? They haven't said that. What they've said is so my point is they haven't dug their heels in on the idea that it's not gonna happen. I think it's inevitable people believe that it will happen. It's not an if, it's a when.
Mhm.
And if I was a CEO close to retirement, I would probably just say, "No, no, no, we're fine." And then I'm gonna get the hell out of here in 3 years when it happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The next myth, generative AI is transforming business. Adoption is high, but transformation is rare. Only 5% of enterprises have AI tools integrated into workflows at scale, and 7 of 9 sectors showed no real structural change. And so, yeah, this is like, again, this is the premise of the report. This is why people are
Mhm.
reacting. 5% of enterprises have AI tools, but again, 95% of their employees are using these tools multiple times throughout the day. Like, what? Okay.
Maybe it's like the people that go to the gym and don't lose
It's
weight.
just not like to me, it's like a form factor thing. It's like not delivered in the form factor that an enterprise is used to.
Mhm.
And yes, are we getting the most productivity possible? Are all at an enterprise level?
Mhm.
Our workflows fully integrated and tied together? Is there measurable quantification on exactly how many hours are saved per day by the employees? No, that's not true.
Mhm.
Um, but like the way that they're framing this seems
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Very disappointed in MIT. I used to
Yeah,
wanna go to college there, no more.
the um, the decay of institutions is real. Uh, enterprises are slow in adopting new tech. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Enterprises are extremely eager to adopt AI, and 90%. So that was actually a myth for what it's worth.
Mhm.
Um, but the reality is enterprises are extremely eager to adopt AI. 90% have seriously explored buying an AI solution at the enterprise level. Fourth myth, the biggest thing holding back AI is model quality, legal, data, and risk. In reality, what's holding it back is that most AI tools don't learn and don't integrate well into workflows. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair thing.
But so I would say also, we're talking about enterprises in general, right? And I think there's a quotient to consider. If you are a law firm, that is a people business. The bulk of your business is P&L. There is no major investments, there is no CapEx. So when you look at like the capital required to invest in the firm, it's a very unusual thing, right? Even I remember law firms of the early days of internet would ask me how they can charge their customers back for sending emails. They wanted to charge per email because they used to charge for FedEx and faxes, right? Like, how do we charge for it? Of course, that was short lived. But so if you think about it, right, these professional services organizations that don't have a lot of capital to invest, they have IT, but they can't really invest CapEx in a meaningful way to transform, back to the other conversation, to transform their businesses, will actually just iterate adoption in an unmeaningful way. Versus if you are, call it Coca-Cola, and you're looking at robotics and AI, and you're deploying it in your next factory, your next manufacturing facility, and you're deploying a billion of CapEx, you can now do AI and robotics because you're a CapEx mindset. I think the markets with the biggest opportunity for AI transformation and disruption do not understand or don't have the capital balance sheet to invest in a major way to make a difference. So they screw around with, $29 a month chat GPT. I mean, look, the early days of the internet was free, right? Internet was free. Is the internet free? We have to have cybersecurity. I mean, there's so many things that don't make it free. at an enterprise level. It's very expensive to have the internet. But as consumers, we thought the internet was free.
Fifth myth: the best enterprises are building their own tools. You'll like this one. Obviously, we know that is not true.
That is not true.
Internal builds fail twice as often if you're building your own. If you're building your own tool sets. I would say that that's probably vastly underestimated. I would say close to 5 to 10x more often.
Yeah.
Don't build your own tools, people.
Do not build your own tools.
Not worth it. The other thing I wanted to bring up on the report, so they took a look at adoption across different industries.
Mm-hmm.
The two sectors they call out with actual real adoption: structural change, technology.
Mm-hmm.
New challengers gaining ground, Cursor, Copilot, shifts in workflows. I think mainly the call out there is probably coding tools, infrastructure related tools, and then secondly the other industry that was called out, media and telecom, essentially AI native content, AI's ability to assist with creative content, video, voice, altering both of those industries pretty significantly and structurally. The other industries they highlighted, so professional services, healthcare, consumer and retail, financial services, advanced industries, like call it manufacturing, industrial, energy and materials, no notable infringement on their productivity and workflows is what the report says. I mean, let's talk about the built environment here for a second. Obviously, we probably span across multiple categories that are listed here. Where do you think the biggest efficiency gains, productivity gains are happening in the companies that we work with? And use a few different examples. Obviously, like an A&E firm is going to be different than a subcontractor doing work in the field.
Yeah, I think some of the productivity gains are happening just on finding things, right? Like, it's quite fascinating. We're a pretty small organization, but sometimes I'm like, hey, where's that PowerPoint? Where's that deck from 3 months ago? And everybody's like, Slack gets lit up. Everybody's digging around trying to find something, right? And that's at our scale. Couple people, right? We can't find shit in our own stuff, right? So I think in the world of just being able to find stuff quickly, I think you're seeing a lot of productivity gains there. Like, oh, where's that project we worked on? Where's that bio? Where's that this?
So from a search standpoint,
right? Yeah, just being able to find stuff, because as humans, apparently we stopped organizing our information and we don't have things in the right place, and things are on the cloud and things are on our hard drive. So I think there's some pretty decent productivity gains there. And then I think around the there's like get the work, do the work. In the world of get the work, I think there's some productivity gains. Just being able to rewrite a resume. One of the things when I was in engineering, we'd have these long form bios to be put into proposals, like, oh, here's your team. And the big thing was always like they were very long form, because if you were going after a hospital project, you wanted to make sure marketing would pull the paragraphs that were relevant to healthcare, because you wanted to be very specific to that customer. I think you're in a position now where you can say, rewrite this bio and highlight all the healthcare experience that KP has, and it probably auto generates it pretty quickly. Yeah. But it happens, like our chief engineer, his resume, his bio was 50 pages long with all his experience, and we had someone manually going in and cutting and pasting specific project experience and relevant experience. So I think you see some productivity gains there. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's got Otter and Fireflies and everything jumping into these meetings. I really have and people say it's been huge productivity for them, not having to take meeting notes. I don't know. I just feel like I have a lot of meeting notes, but they're just going into a drive somewhere.
Yeah.
So there's a question of like, when you're manually taking notes, you're running your own human inference filter, why it matters, right? Why
Mhm.
it's not about just taking notes. We're not transcribing. And I feel like people are transcribing a lot of stuff, but there's no knowledge and takeaways from it, per se. And then they're just sharing that with other people who are probably not reading it.
Mhm.
But people have told me like so much productivity gains being able to transcribe my meeting notes. And I'm like, I don't depends on your definition of productivity.
Yeah. There's a section in the report. It's called "Perceived Fitness for High Stakes Work." I think everyone in the AC industry would consider their work high stakes work.
Yeah.
One of the questions they ask in the survey: would you assign this task to AI or to a junior colleague? Complex projects, which would be multi-week, multi-step, multi-week type work, client management, more complex tasks. 90% human preferred, 10% AI preferred. And that
Hmm.
lines up. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the more difficult things that models are working through in terms of, where they're hobbled today is like completing, multi-day, multi-week long tasks is very difficult at this moment in time with LLMs.
Hmm.
And then for quick tasks, same question: would you assign this task to AI or junior colleague? And the quick tasks being defined as emails, summaries,
Hmm.
transcription, basic analysis. 70% said AI preferred, and 30% said human preferred. So I think that lines up.
Yeah. I think so. I think so.
I guess like the way that this report is being talked about, there's like a certain level of certainty. People are talking as if LLMs are not going to be able to go eat and accomplish that complex project task. And like,
Hmm.
have you been paying attention? Like, in what world do you think that the models will not get unhobbled and eventually be
Yeah.
able to tackle some of these tasks? Like, I just I
Yeah.
struggle with that mentality of thinking that this is the bottleneck and it's going to be here for 5 or 10 years. I think like yeah, it may not be this year that you're assigning really complex tasks and high stakes
Hmm.
work to people, but in the next couple of years, I find that very hard to believe if that doesn't occur.
Oh. Well, like the human condition is driven by ego and self worth. And I think it's hard for people to contemplate and check their ego and not take their self worth to be aligned to things that AI can do. Right. I mean, I think if you enjoy your work, right? If you enjoy your work, I think it's very hard to contemplate that a computer can do your work and somehow you are worthless.
Mhm.
Because people that enjoy their work, like we do, we tie a lot of our self worth and ego to our work. So I think that is just what that report is indicating is, it's just reflecting the human condition in many ways.
My my therapist wife would have some comments on tying work to self-worth, but we won't venture there today.
Well,
Um,
I mean, look, I know very few people that in their work life that want to be in that top 5% in their work life,
yeah,
right? Whether you're Patrick, does Patrick Mahomes not think of himself as like, is his life not work mostly?
yeah.
Is he not think right? I mean, I just think that there is a
Okay, so
percentage that
I got one comment on this. So, have you been? I'm sure you've seen some of what Scotty Scheffler has done in the golf world.
mhm,
He
yeah,
is the one professional athlete that I've seen potentially in my lifetime.
mhm,
I'm not I'm not graybeard yet, but
mhm,
he he's actually detached a little bit from at least the way that he presents himself and talks. And I mean, if you talk to people around him, like I think they validate this.
mm,
He actually is the first person that can openly talk about I have this life that's separate from golf and yet is
mhm,
still performing at the absolute highest level,
yeah,
winning week over
he
week, basically dominating the sport, but saying like at the end of the day, I got to go change my kid's diaper
yeah,
just like
yeah, yeah.
everybody else. And
I
I
mean,
I think, it's actually been cool to see that because I come from I come from the, the DNA fabric that you're alluding to, which is like the Tiger Woods mentality that
Mhm.
everything revolves around, the thing that you want to accomplish. Like your entire life's work is measured in what you accomplish and the legacy that you leave. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing at all. I'm
Yeah,
wired that way as you are, but I do
yeah.
think it's interesting that people are finding, at least in the example of Scotty, he's still performing at the highest level while still maintaining that balance.
Maybe, or he has a really good branding consultant that said, "Hey, here's a white space that nobody owns, Scotty. Nobody's gonna say that you outwork
He's
Tiger on a relative
he is
basis."
he's a category leader
Um,
in that
it's a
in that
that's
spot.
what
Yeah.
like, I mean, I'm suspicious. I'm sus
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, here's this great white space. We can make it very authentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have your babies waiting at the 18th hole, and instead of, like, high-fiving your caddy, you're gonna go grab your baby first. That'll be a good look, good picture op.
Yep. 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 Okay. Your commentary on the MIT report.
Without
I
reading
thought this
it.
was interesting. I'm still thinking about this idea. I don't know what
Okay.
I think about it yet, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I agree or disagree with the MIT report, says KP Reddy. Here is something that I'm going to explore. The ROI fallacy is that we are comparing weight to distance and concluding that there is no ROI. Let me explain a bit, and then I'll publish a white paper next week on the topic. The unit of effort of AI is a token. It's measured in tokens. It doesn't have a time domain to it because it is unlimited. There is really no time factor at all when it comes to tokens. So humans, on the other hand, have limitations of time. Our unit of charging is time, salary, or hours. This pricing isn't based on specific effort, but rather the combination of two key metrics: competency and capacity. You can outsource telemarketing because you either don't have the ability to do it or you don't have enough warm bodies, hours, or both. Remember when people said that they were paid in salt? Comparing AI productivity against hours saved isn't a comparative measurement. The better comparative is how much did a human charge per token and how many tokens to do the task that AI accomplished. So essentially, what's your token rate to do the tasks? Expand.
So we are all limited by time, right? So every study that MIT studies, like saving time, saving time. AI is more about, do I have enough tokens, right? Each model uses a different, there's a cost per token that goes up based on the complexity of work. So even as you think about building an MCP server or anything you're going to do, you're not just going to go work with Chat 5. There's a reason why the legacy versions, I know they're deprecating some of them, but the legacy versions aren't just about better or not. It's, I'm going to use Chat 4 for certain tasks because those are lower dollar tasks per token. I'm going to use Chat 5 for some tasks that are more advanced because those are higher dollars per token. So we're sitting here trying to compare a unit of AI does not understand time. There is no time domain. So if I said, "Hey Nick, can you write me a white paper?" and you say your response will be like, "Hey, I can get it to you tomorrow. It's going to probably take me 5 hours. I got to find time to do it." If I said, "Well, how many tokens for you to do the work?" I'm not going to pay. Like, let's say you're a consultant. I'm not going to pay by the hour. What's your rate per token? So is the input my request via Slack or my request via voice that gets converted into bits and bytes and tokens? And then you're spending whatever you do to process these things. Maybe I'm watching you click on your computer,
Yeah.
and it's how many ever clicks, right?
Yeah.
And then there's an output, which is once again bits and bytes, tokens. Is that what you charge me for? Or you charge me for the round trip of the token usage? And so what I would say is, because by the way, maybe for 80%
Yeah,
of
so
writing that white
tokens
paper,
are oil in that concept.
right? So maybe you're going to use AI tools to build version 1, So those are the lowest cost tokens, but then you're having to use your brain, your experience to do the higher level editing, et cetera, et cetera. And you're going to charge more for those tokens because one, those tokens are scarce, right? And two, that they're higher value tokens. Your chat GPT-6, right? You're using, so I think that the problem is we're using these units of measurement and trying to do a comparative study versus like maybe we need to think about ourselves as tokens and not as ours. Back to every engineering firm we talk to, every architecture, anyone in professional services that charges by the hour, I always say, like, stop tracking your time. We didn't educate ourselves this way to be good at entering time, right? What if we charged per token? Back to value pricing, right? Maybe if you send me a drawing via whatever interface, that's converted into tokens as an input, and I'm going to do so many work, I'm going to charge you 10 tokens for that work, but my tokens are $10,000 a token. It's not about my time.
Mhm.
So it's a simple idea in many ways, I think, but the implementation is somewhat complex because then we have to decide, so a friend of mine was looking for a job, hadn't created a resume in like a decade, right? And he was like, dude, like I don't even know how to begin doing a resume. And so I was like, hey, I have a consultant, they can help you. And so then I asked the consultant, how much of that time, like how much did you use ChatGPT? And they were like, I recorded the call with this person. I dropped it into chat and said, hey, like summarize this person's experience, et cetera, et cetera. But then at the end of it, that was like the 80% solution, maybe, or the 70%. I don't know. I wasn't in the weeds on it. But then the human factor kicked in for the last, to make it great, right? AI made it good. This person made it great. So how do you charge for that? Do you charge by time or do you charge per token? Because if we charge per time, that's the whole thing in professional services that, well, if I use AI, I can't charge as much because I'm not using my time. So my idea of turning human effort into tokens actually supports this idea that if you can do it in less time, you just charge by tokens. Now I don't know what the human interface is, and there's probably a stable coin to be created in this, Nick. Human coin, time coin. You have an attorney coin, an accountant coin.
Yeah, it's actually kind of an interesting thing. It's an interesting thought experiment. Like your original premise of the ask to do a white paper.
Mhm.
So to do a white paper, the amount of tokens I would use with an LLM would be quite significant, actually, because I'm giving it a lot of context. I'm plugging it like in the context window of the LLM. I'm giving it a lot of information.
Mhm.
The bulk of the work is actually done there in the initial context window. That's going to eat up a lot of tokens, which is different than a resume. A resume would not eat up nearly as many tokens. I mean, the price probably justifies it. The price difference between a white paper and a resume is probably captured there.
Yep.
So
the quantification of token, right?
Yeah,
You
the
think you can
quantification of
capture it,
token
right? Not the
conveys how
cost.
difficult the task is. So, like a white paper is a difficult task. It requires a lot of context and token usage. The easier, simpler tasks, like not as much. You don't have to give too much context to the models to get an effective outcome. And then the second piece that from personal experience doing this, the more time-consuming effort that I've found currently is it's in this synthesis after the initial white paper is produced. So you get back if you're using a deep research tool, like if you're using ChatGPT Deep Research or Grok, research, Claude's research tool, they give you these like 20-page outputs, and it might be like 70 to 80% there, even comparing to the resume example, it might be mostly there, but there's still, I mean, to get it to where you want to get it to where it's actually good enough to release, that last 10 to 20% actually takes a huge effort. And
Mhm.
I find I'm probably 3xing my token usage in that
Mhm.
synthesis process where I'm like actually reading. So I'll go through the output, read word for word like an editor would. I'll take notes during that process. I'll ask it to produce, directionally, and each
Mhm.
paragraph or subsection exactly, the changes I want to make. And then it's still not going to be perfect. And then the entire output and sometimes the structure changes. So the
Mhm.
repetition of doing that over and over again. And then I find myself piecemealing all of the different outputs that are 20 pages
Mhm.
in length. So now
Mhm.
I'm actually the editor of 5 research reports.
Right.
And some sections are great, other sections are not. You have to structure the report in way, to make sure that the language and the flow is proper across the multiple queries that you've run. It actually is like a little bit of a
Mhm.
task. Over
Mhm.
time, I'm not like this will be much easier and simpler to do. But I find the token usage would be both, yeah, in um, the initial query and prompt, feeding it as much information as possible, and then, the next series of iterations probably less severe from a token usage perspective and more like I mean my brain, it's like I'm relying on my brain right now to do that synthesis. So it's like, how
Mhm.
do you capture that human element? Like that's my
Mhm.
question on that.
So think about it this, right? Services business. Let's pick on lawyers because we know a lot of AEC people listen to our stuff. Let's pick on lawyers because nobody likes them. The legal profession, like most professional services, is a labor arbitrage model. So what you just described, is there a token arbitrage? Let's assume that chat's tokens are $1 a token. I'm making it up. I don't know what they actually are. But if the added wrapper of Nick's effort and your expertise, because you have to process the what you put into the context window, and then there's like the post processing, right? So if ChatGPT's token is $1 a token, and your value add is 4x that, you charge me $4 a token at a cost of $1 a token.
Mhm.
Like, so now we're doing token arbitrage.
Mhm.
The difference being is now the only problem is there could be incentive misalignment where you start, which also happens in services. I'm sure all lawyers are tracking their time exactly and being honest on their bills with me. I'm sure they're not rounding up or having random people bill my account,
No,
right?
no, no way.
Not at
Yeah.
all. So there is some incentive misalignment where like you may use more tokens to get the work done because you want to charge more. That's no different. That's like an ethics type thing.
I mean,
But
for what
like,
it's worth, that's actually an interesting thing because like you can use as many tokens as you possibly want in a
right,
query, right?
right. And if I'm asking you to do a white paper and you come back and say, KP, I charge $5 a token, and you send me an invoice for 1,000 tokens, I might be like, okay. But then the next one, you're like, take advantage of me and it's $50,000. I'm like, hey, this guy works for this guy takes less tokens. He might charge me $6 a token, but he takes less tokens. So the whole like efficiency versus output, you're still playing the same game. You know, do you
Yeah.
hire
It'd be
the
competitive. There's a efficient market dynamic there. Yeah.
right? Do you hire the lawyer that charges you $5,000 an hour that can solve something in a quarter hour, or the one that charges you 1,000 hours and takes 20 hours to solve for it,
Yeah.
right? So maybe the market will dictate your token rate, and you can't gouge me with your excessive token charges compared to the next person.
Yeah.
And so now, so translate that. So like, so in project work in our industry or lawyers, you say they send you a rate sheet, right? They send you a rate sheet and they give you a lump sum. They say give you a not to exceed. So is now the rate sheet not dollars per hour, but dollars per token? I feel like there's a
I
there
like it.
there with this. I feel like there's a
Yeah, I
there
like
there.
it. I like it. I like it. I think there's definitely a future state where token usage is definitely involved in pricing for sure. Yeah.
Because we all agree we hate this idea of tracking our time, and the only way for me to make more money is to work more hours. I
Mhm.
mean, we none of us love that aspect of work, and that's why some of us get into becoming financial, capital allocators,
Yeah.
because it's not correlated. Our
Yeah.
dollars are
Yeah.
not correlated at all to how much time we spend, really.
Yeah, the per hour rate is a tough it's like a tough human psychological thing to be comfortable with. Like you feel like a
Mhm.
slave.
Yeah,
Um,
because you are.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
My my
yeah.
my little, my little insert around history in that post was around salt, right? That's where the term salary comes from, is salt, because they used to pay previously slaves, but then when they decided commercially, they were like, "Oh, they're not slaves, they're real. We'll pay them in salt," right?
Mhm.
So, I think, does all this stuff come to head over time? Like, I used to always say, like, what's the airline industry? The airline is in the thermodynamics industry. They convert fuel. They add value to fuel by burning fuel to get you somewhere, right? That's the value add, right? The value creation, the value stack is converting something that started off as $55 or $60 a barrel, and then somehow turns into a $1,200 ticket for some god awful reason, right? So that's the conversion and the value stacking that tends to happen. So I think that the exercise that look, I think this is beyond a thought experiment, though. And that's why I put on Catalyst, I'd put a note that, like, anyone want to write this white paper with me, because I think there could be some real mathing.
Well, we already know that the hourly model, the billable hour model is changing. Maybe
Mhm.
next week we can do a deep dive on the owner's rep
Yeah.
white paper.
I, yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think I think it is. I think, there's all these great stories, like, Van Gogh is in a bar and someone asked him to draw something and he drew it and gave it to them, and they're like, "Aren't you going to sign it?" And he's like, "Oh, that's $500 or whatever." Like, I don't know. There's all these, like, ideas of stories around value creation. And so I think once you take time out of the factor and turn it into a token, then we get to argue about what we're charging per
Yeah.
token.
I love that.
But we have a baseline, right? We have a baseline.
Yeah,
What's the wholesale rate of a token? Is Chat 6,
right,
right? ChatGPT
right,
6 is, or
right.
5 is the wholesale rate of a token. And if you say, well, I can do that for 10 tokens at $5 a token, and I'm like, I can do it with ChatGPT without you for $1 a token. Well, now, like, you're not creating enough value above and beyond the AI.
I think humans are incentivized to keep the hourly model as long as possible right now, actually. Like if I'm having to like I don't want despite what I said about the human psychology thing, I don't want to have to I don't want to have to give some of my value away and anchor to token pricing, knowing that token pricing is going to go down, and essentially I would be able to I think I would be able to capture more margin on my work at this moment in time by leveraging the tool, knowing that the client I'm working for to produce that paper knows I'm
Mhm,
using it, but they don't know how much. And it's up to me to be as efficient as possible and produce as high as quality of an output as I can. But I do think that you're describing a future state where customers have wisened up, like as the customer, if you're requesting me to bid on a project with that sort of
mhm,
pricing model, because you understand the dynamics at play, that all your consultants are now using AI models to do the work in a tenth of the time they used before. Essentially, you flipped the script and changed the game. For what it's worth, the
mhm.
white paper I'm talking about, the owner's rep white paper, is that's the exact concept of it. Like when
Mhm.
customers start requesting you to change your model because they're like, hey man, this doesn't take you 20 hours to produce. Like
Mhm.
the project, the project reporting analysis, the deck, like can spin up a deck in an hour. I know the game. Like it's over. The jig's up.
Mhm.
I want the
Yep.
jig as the consultant. I want the jig to stay as up for as long as possible.
Yeah.
I can capture that arbitrage,
Yeah.
but eventually, like if you're smart enough to ask that question, I'm gonna have to meet you on your terms if I want to get the work.
Mhm. Well, think about this too, right? And this is like I think this is the condition of the professional services industry. People say this thing, oh, but what about my IP? What about my IP? They say this nonsense over and over again. And one could argue that the token based a layer of your own, you take the LLM and then you're throwing your data on top of the LLM for the training model. You're actually now capturing your IP. So if you've been in a law firm and you've been doing it for 100 years and you have all that IP to train the model, maybe you do get to charge more per token because you have a better model. So I don't know. I mean, I think and that's why I posted it out on Catalyst. I mean, I think it would be fun to take someone's, I mean, maybe it'd be fun. I mean, my definition of fun is clearly different than a lot of people's definition of fun. But if you took like the last white paper you did and tried to figure it out, like what would have been my token rate and how many tokens, right? Um, it'd be super interesting. And I think there might be some folks in the Catalyst community that are like, hey, I do structure, I do these steel connections and like whatever it is. Maybe they can find some tasks that they do quite frequently to come up with some case studies and do some token conversion of time.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Maybe I'll do some research and figure out what my last white paper cost under your model.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I want to know that answer actually. um
I was saying, like we're now going to turn it like that. That's the next big build, right? We go build something around token arbitrage. I'm going to pay you $2 a token. I'm going to sell you for $6 a token, and it's all run on our own proprietary on our own stable coin. Because then, if we run our own stable coin, then it looks like a barter system, and none of us pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
It's also funny. Yeah, because we like, we all have help, right? So I have folks that come, you know, clean the house or watch the kid when I want to go do something, right? Um, what is that time? What is that worth, right? Because there's also I don't want to clean my toilets. Like I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not, so the value has to do with, is aligned with the person, and watching my own kid is aligned to, depends on how he's doing that day. There's some days I'm just ready to like, here, someone come take this kid, right? But depends on the day what I would pay per token. But if you tokenize all of our work, none of us have W-2s.
Mm-hmm.
The future of then the vision of crypto holds true. We can all like not be part of
over the internet. Yeah.
We're no longer part of the government system. We're no longer part of the government system.
Yeah.
I'm sure I just got added to a list. I'm pretty convinced I just got added to a list.
It's future I'm ready for. All right. Next LinkedIn post, if you have time.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit of time.
Lately, I've been meeting a lot of founders focused on the construction industry with very limited industry experience. While I think fresh ideas from outside the industry are needed, I question their tenacity to stick with it. This industry is brutal. Yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you see the folks that show up, hey, I came out of healthcare and I solved all these big problems in healthcare. And, I think construction,
I know where this post originated now. Yep.
I mean, I don't think, does construction have a lot of problems? Yes. Do we have a monopoly on all the problems? Probably not. But I love the idea of like fresh perspectives on how to think about something in our industry. But I also think it's easy to abandon the mission. Like, I think when I find founders that are from industry, they're just really passionate. Like they're just mad. They're mad about about some problem. It's just really just they just really hate the problem. They really want to solve it. And the industry gets tough. This industry, punches you in the face every day, right? And I think when you're from the industry and you have a true passion, an authentic passion around the problem statement because you've experienced it, you're going to keep operating with a level of tenacity and energy and stay energized to see it through. I think if you come out of another industry and you're being opportunistic to come into our market and say, "Oh my God, there's so many problems. I could solve all these things." I think the minute you get punched in the face a few times, you're like, "Why am I here?" I mean, I'm a good example of that. I mean, I went into the telecom industry for a few years, and so I was just like, I can't, like, I don't have enough resources left to see it through, right? And so I pivoted into telecom, made some money there, made more money there than I would have made it ever in the construction space, right? Um, and then I popped back into it because I was like, no, now I got a few bucks. I can play the long game in the construction industry. But I think that's the problem, and I think that's the balancing. I mean, try to keep a. If you're an industry founder and you get a co-founder, it's a great AI engineer, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna crush this, and we're gonna have all this scale, and we're gonna do all the things, and then it doesn't happen. Good luck. Good luck retaining that founder. Like, what? We can't raise money? What do you mean we can't raise money? There's so much money out there. All the other AI companies are raising money. I'm
Mhm,
out of here.
mhm.
So
Oh,
it's
yeah,
really tough.
I think this is, I've seen this be a controversial topic because I think everyone, to your original point, they welcome different perspectives and different
Mhm.
perspectives. The idea of different perspectives is like you're coming in fresh. You have no
Yeah.
preconceptions. You don't have any
Mhm.
biases. That is a really important, I mean, like maybe the number one example of this is someone like Elon, right? Who,
Mhm.
goes to do electric cars, then rockets, and then
Yeah.
and originally PayPal and payments, and now he's on to X, and he'll do something else. Um,
Yeah.
and he brings it. The argument is like he brings a fresh perspective and just for
Right.
a first principles approach, and says like,
Mhm.
how the hell do we solve this problem? Having as someone who comes from this industry myself, I completely agree with what you're saying though. Like I think there's a lot. I've seen a lot of people leave the industry too early that came in with that non-biased, differentiated,
Mm.
unique perspective on how to do things and leave because it's like, yeah, it's pain. It's like you're eating glass. You're gonna eat glass in this space. It's
Mhm.
true of a lot of industries, but I think like
Yeah.
there's a unique way of operating in the built environment where it spits you out at a point in time.
Mhm.
And universally, like looking across, I think even the success stories in construction, even outside of our portfolio,
Mhm.
um, I mean, like someone like Tui from Procore is a good example of this. I mean, it took him 10 years to get to 5 million in revenue, something like that.
Wow.
Um, I mean, that's
Yeah.
insane. Like
It's
I might
insane.
be exaggerating, but it was like
Like,
not a quick,
I don't think you're off by,
yeah.
much magnitude. I think you're probably
Which
right.
is like, I mean, most founders would have given up, but
Yeah. Mhm.
he really cared about solving the problem and, for, bringing software to project management and construction and has built one of the biggest software companies in the space. But like the instinct is to give up. Like if it takes you 8 years to get to 5 million in revenue, every investor that you talk to, all of your
Mhm.
friends and family, anyone who's wise will tell you, dude, go make a
Go
buck.
do
Like
something else.
you're a smart guy. Yeah. Like don't waste
Mhm.
your life on this space. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we hear that a lot. But I even look at, the vantage point we have working with our founders And it has to be a personal conviction
Yeah.
that you have in order to move through that phase of like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm not going to, like this is not going to be an easy path. Why am I here? Why am I, why am I waking up every
Well,
day? But I will say about the industry, not to turn anyone off. We have arguably the biggest problem sets of any industry in the world. So if you're looking for a
right.
mission and a purpose, do you want to solve the housing crisis? It's arguably the biggest
Mhm.
problem that we face as a society today, and
Mhm.
it's my generation's problem. Like,
Yep.
I don't think there's a bigger problem to solve in the world right now than the affordability of housing.
No, 100%. I think that's the thing, right? Like, I think you have to be high mission oriented around this stuff. I don't think you can. Um, I think if you come in with an opportunistic mindset, I don't think you're going to last. But I mean, you've been on board calls with me where I'm practically trying to talk our founders into giving up. And they're literally like, "But my work is not done." Like, "I'm not done yet." I have like they don't feel like they're done with their work. And I'm like, "Yes, you're also running out of money. Like, maybe you do something different, you know?" And they stick in there. But I need to wrap up. This has been fun. I'm not sure how many
Enjoyed it.
tokens we used.
I need to quantify
Quantify
audio and video
quanti
recording.
quantify our tokens. So,
I
all right,
will.
Nick, it was great chatting.
I'm gonna work on that equation. See you next week.
Yep. Be sure to I'm gonna end the recording. It has to upload, because it kind of buffers.